Okay, I'm going to use this as an opportunity to review, but also as an opportunity to learn EIGRP and do some basic EIGRP configuring. So what we've got here are three routers. They have not been wired up yet, but we're going to wire them up. This is router R0, R1, and R3. Then we have switches, S0, S1, and S2. And by the way, if you want to download this packet tracer file and follow along, you'll be able to download it at danscourses.com, and I'll put a link below. Okay, so we've got the three switches and the three routers, and then we're going to use this as a refresher on subnetting. So what we're going to do is, in between these routers, we will have 4 host networks, okay, small subnets in between these routers. And then out here, let's start from network 1. This network out here will be designed as a subnet for 128 hosts. Network 2, this will be a subnet for 64 hosts. And network 3, a subnet for 32 hosts out here, right? And then in between the routers, like I said, we've got network 4, 5, and 6, 4 hosts each. So we're going to need 6 subnets. So you can see here I've put the starting address, 192.168.5.0/24. This is our starting point, right? And now we're going to create 6 subnets out of it. So that's the first thing we're going to do is create these subnets, all right? Well, when you're networking, the first subnet is going to be 192.168.5.0, all right? And right now, if it's /24, it's 256 hosts. But we need, let's say, 128 hosts. And let me change that to 126 hosts usable, right? 126 usable hosts. So I'm going to change the subnet mask from /24 to /25, all right? And that will give me a network from 0 to 127, all right, /25. All right, starting at 5.0, going all the way to 5.127, and that'll give us the 126, let's say, hosts. 128 total hosts, 126 usable, because .0 is the network, and .127 is the broadcast. All right, so the next network will start at 128, and we need it for, let's say, we'll call this 62 hosts, right? And so this will go from 128. What we're going to do is we're going to make it a /26, right? And a /26 gives us 64 hosts. So 62 usable. So that'll go from 128 to .191. And 128, the number 128, we can't use that because that's the network number. And we can't use .191 because that's the broadcast number. But that'll be a /26. And now for the third network, 192.168.5.192, right? We need 32 hosts, or I'm going to change that here to 30 hosts. Okay. And that's going to be a /27 subnet. Why? /27, right? The last bit borrowed, the last one going from left to right, is in the 32's place. So this will go from 192 to .223. All right? And so that will be our /27, right? And that'll give us 32 hosts. Now we start with our small subnets, 192.168.5.224. And I'm going to highlight this, copy, paste, paste, and this will be the 224 network. This one will be the 228 network, and this one will be the 232 network. These will all be /30 which will give us 4 hosts. Okay, /30/30, and I'm going to change these from 2 hosts to 4 hosts to 2 hosts to reflect 2 usable connections. 2 usable connections. Okay, 2 hosts, point-to-point links. All right, so that'll give us the required 2 hosts each. 224. Why? /30, the magic number on /30 is 4. Magic number on /27 is 32. The magic number on /26 is 64, and the magic number on /25 is 128. So this is a network of 128 hosts, 64 hosts, 32 hosts, 4 hosts, 4 hosts, and 4 hosts. So there's our number scheme. So now that we have our addressing scheme down for our networks, let's hook these up. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to go to Options, Preferences, and I'm going to say Show Port Labels. Okay, they're on, so that's good. So we'll be able to see those. All right, so I'm going to say Connections. I'm going to get the DTE connection here for serial connection, and I'm going to connect it to serial 2. Then I'll take it over here to serial 3. And so now the clock is over here at serial 3, and the DTE is over here at serial 2, DT and DCE over here. So serial 2 to serial 3, and serial 3 is the DCE, and serial 2 is the DTE. And I'll follow that same pattern as I go around. So I'll go here, serial 2 to serial 3, and then get this and say serial 2 to serial 3. And I can see here that where I have the clock showing is where I'm going to have to configure a clock rate on my serial interfaces. And we can hook up now from the Ethernet ports to these switches. So router to switch is a straight through cable. So I'll go here and grab a straight through cable, and I'll go from the router's fast Ethernet 0 to the first Ethernet port on the switch, and I'll do that again on all of these. Later, what we'll do is we'll add hosts later on that will we'll add PCs later on once we have this configured. Okay, now it's time to configure these interfaces on the routers with the correct and proper IP addresses. I'll start with the Ethernet interfaces on the routers, and I'm going to use the first available host address as the router's IP address on that interface. So we'll start up here with network 1, 126 hosts. It's our first network, network 1. And so the router on this Ethernet interface will be 5.1 with a /25 subnet mask. So I'll open up the router, and I'll go to command line interface, hit return to get started, enable, configure terminal, interface, fast Ethernet FA 0/0, IP address 192.168.5.1 with a subnet mask of 255.255.255.128. Hit enter, and no shutdown. All right, and now if we look, we see the green light go on, and so we have our first interface configured. So this one right here is on the router is 5.1 right here on this Ethernet interface. Okay,